Shalom, Ahab, Wa, Baraka. First and foremost, Kol Halala, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Wahal, Rakah, Kodash, and double honors to the elder apostles, the prophets, and the teachers that have been bringing out this 100% truth the last 30 plus years over at GMS. And to the sincere Ak Yahweh Akwath, and to the disciples like myself, salutations. Let's get started. Romans chapter 8, starting from the top. So, starting from the top, like I said, Romans chapter 8, starting from the top. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. So, you're blameless. Have you ever heard of the word being blameless? So when you're condemned or condemnation, it's to be blamed. Let me get it real quick. What's the biblical definition of condemnation? To declare wrong. That's beautiful. So you're not going to be, no one's going to be able to declare you as being wrong. No one's going to be able to say that you're guilty of something. You're going to be blameless, like I said. All right, let's go back into it. So you know that the people that, the people that follow Yahweh Shai HaMashiach are going to be blameless. They walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. The flesh is the world, the ways and the worldliness of the world. Let's keep going. For the law of the Spirit of life in Yahweh Shai HaMashiach hath made me free from the law of sin and death. So that's beautiful right there. What it's telling you is when you follow the instructions given to you according to how Yahweh Shai lived his life, it says that we were going to follow his example pretty much. So we were going to try to be like him. So if you're going to follow in his footsteps, you're going to be made free from the law of sin. What does that mean? So sin, no, you're not going to be judged on sin anymore? No. You'll still be judged for sin. You're going to be free from the law of sin because you're not going to be sinning. So if you're not in sin, then you're free from that. So you're not going to be doing things unrighteously. So you'll be free from the law of sin and death. Sin leads to death. So to be free from the law of sin, here's a perfect example. Pork. Now, we all know that if you, maybe some of you don't, but if you continuously eat pork throughout your life, you get these worms in your stomach, and they don't go away. They stay right there in your gut, and you have to physically, like surgically, have them removed. And so, the law of sin is death. So what happens? The Most High says, don't eat pork. You continuously eat pork until you're so sick that you die. So it's a slow, painful death. But if you want to be free from the law of sin and death, you don't eat pork. That's the example. So the example is pork is sin. You stay away from pork. Now you're freed from the law of sin because you know that pork is scientifically unhealthy for you to eat. And you know that scientifically over a period of years of eating it could put you to death. So to be freed from the death of this scientific breakthrough, you don't eat pork. Do you understand now? So in other words, to be freed from the law of sin and death, you cannot be in sin, which leads to death. Verse 3, for what the law could not do in that it was weak through the flesh, Yahweh sending his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh. It's beautiful. So the law of Moses was unable to save us because of the weakness of our sinful nature. The law was perfect, but we being in the flesh were made weak in the flesh. That's why we have a sinful nature. So Yahweh did what the law could not do. That was the law. It's not what the law couldn't do. It was what we couldn't do and what we couldn't see through our own thick skulls to do. The law was always made perfect. That's why we're going to go back to the law. But for the sake of argument, so Yahweh did what the law could not do. He sent his own son in a body like the bodies we sinners have. And in that body, Yahweh declared an end to sin's control over us by giving his son as a sacrifice to our sins. Okay? So in other words, because of our sinful nature, we would go out and we would break Yahweh's law, and then we would go do an animal sacrifice. So he sent his only begotten son as the ultimate sacrifice. And whoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. So how do you believe in something? Let's go back to GPS real quick. Because if I believe that GPS is going to get me from point A to point B, I'm going to follow the instructions of GPS. So if you believe that Yahushai can free you from the law of sin and death, then you should follow his instructions, right? Okay, it's that simple. It's not a hard class, it's an easy class. Verse 4. Let's read 3 and 4 together. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, Yahweh sending his only son in the likeness of sinful flesh for his sin, condemned sin in the flesh. How did he condemn sin in the flesh? Well, it's very easy. It's very easy because he came from the right-hand side of his Father, which is Yahweh. And he came down to show us the example. He literally got sent here to show us an example of how to live our lives. So he showed us how to not walk after the flesh. So he condemned sin in the flesh. He destroyed sin by never committing any sin while he was in his flesh. And so sin leads to death. That means he conquered death because he never did any sins, which leads to death. Verse 4, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. So, if you walk after the Spirit, it means you're going to follow the instructions to the best of your ability, according to your knowledge. And it keeps telling you to not walk after the flesh. And we're going to get that. We're definitely going to get that. In fact, why don't I just get it right now? Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 18. So, 18 and 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. It's that simple. So to follow in what for the righteous. So it's saying that that we need to come out of the mindset of the world. That's why I wanted to bring that out, because it keeps saying to not walk after the flesh. So it's saying come out of her, my people, right? It's saying come out of the lifestyle. Come back to the truth. The Most High put all these nations around us to see what we would do when he set us free amongst the nations. And our job was to stick with our own laws, our own statutes, our own direct commands, not to try and follow after the other nations. So, verse 4 again, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. So what do? We come out of her, my people. And verse 5, for they that are after the flesh do not mind things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. That's why I say come out of her in Revelation. It's like come out of that lifestyle So sin equals death. So a carnal mind, a sinful mind, is going to put you in a position where you're going to get sick and fucking have a horrific, painful death. For to be carnally minded is death. But to be spiritually minded is life and peace. So that goes back to the GPS system and following after Yahushua. Well, you have to follow him to get to where he's going. You can't say, hey, I'll meet you there. I'm going to go this way. You're going to go that way, but we're somehow going to get to the same place. It's not going to happen. You have to follow after him. So you have to do what he taught you to do. That simple. Verse 7, because the carnal mind is enmity against Yahweh, for it is not subject to the law of Yahweh, neither indeed can be. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please Yahweh. Boom, because the carnal mind, so a worldly mind is hatred against Yahweh, because Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, is going to give you direct commands. And this is how we know that a carnal mind is hatred, because those direct commands, you will not do them. But you'll definitely be in a sinful nature, because the things that you do, the things that you do want to accomplish in life are connected to an antichrist spirit. So if Yahweh says you got to go left, but you say, no, I'm going to take a right. Well, that's against Christ's spirit. He said, take the left. So that makes you an antichrist spirit. That's why it says a carnal mind is hatred against God, because you're going against his teachings. For it is not subject to the law of God, neither can be. Because your mind doesn't work that way. That's why you're not subjected to the law. And it can't be subjected to the law because of your mindset. You are in a complete worldly mindset, and you're engulfed in it. And the 2/3 of the Israelites will never change, and they love that mindset. 1/3 of us, some might still be in that mindset, and they're coming out of it quick, because we know that the Most High is waking up that 1/3 at this time. So, verse 9, but ye are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. So, if so be that the spirit of Yahweh dwell in you. Now, if any man have not the spirit of Yahweh Shai, he is none of his. Like I said, he sent him to the cross to die for our sins. So whosoever believeth in him, when you believe in GPS, you follow. So whoever follows his instructions shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Did you get that? God so loved the cosmos, his orderly arrangement, his ordinances, his statutes. So he loved those so much that he gave his only begotten son to perish, and whoever follows his instructions within the children of Israel shall not perish but have everlasting life. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, but through the translations and the replacement theology, they try to paint a picture of a different likeness. So let's keep going. Verse 9, but you are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. So, if so be that the spirit of Yahweh dwell in you. So we know that if we have the correct spirit, we came through Yahushai, Bahashem, in the name Yahushai. So we got to Yahweh in the name Yahushai. But so that's how we know that we're on that right path, because the spirit of Yahweh dwells in me. And if any man have not the spirit of Yahushai, he is none of his. So you can't say that Yahushai didn't exist. You can't be a black only. You can't be an Old Testament only. You can't be a Christian, everybody's saved, and with a white, all that stuff. No, it says that's all carnal. That's all carnal, fleshly, worldly thoughts. To be in the spirit is to go back to the truth and stick to it. And some things are hard to understand at first. That's why you labor intensely to get the true understanding. Verse 10, and if any Christ be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the spirit is life because of righteousness. So, and that's cool too, because the body is dead because of sin. Why? because the body requires the carnal, fleshly, feel-good things of the world. The spirit doesn't require any of that. So when you go back to Christ, you're going to kill the flesh. How? By not giving in to your fleshly desires. Very simple stuff, guys. All right, let's keep going. And of course, the spirit is life because of righteousness. That's like really self-explanatory. If you're not going to be living a life of sin, guess what? The Most High ain't going to take you out. Verse 11, but if the spirit of him that rised up Yahushua from the dead dwell in you, he that rised up Yahushua from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his spirit that dwelleth in you. Now we already know. So this right here is perfect. We already know that he raised Yahushua up on the third day. And it says he's also going to do the same to us. He's going to quicken our spirit. It doesn't mean to speed it up, okay? He's not going to speed up our spirit. It means to put his spirit in us while we're in our mortal bodies. So that's how we know. See, the mortal has to put on immortality. And the corruptible has to become incorruptible. Let me get it. Because I got to show you guys this. This is beautiful. The corruptible must put on incorruption. What chapter verse? There it is. Let's get it. Boom. All right. So let's go to the whole. Let's go back and let's go to the whole chapter because we need to read it. You guys gotta hear it all. All right. So we're going to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and then we're going to start at verse 51. All right? So I want you guys to hear this because he said in our mortal bodies, he's going to quicken our mortal spirits. So that means at this time, he's actually doing that. He's putting his spirit in us. So that corruptible is actually putting on incorruption at this time. Let me show it to you so you guys can understand. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and we're starting at verse 51. You know what? Starting at verse 50. We're going to call this our final victory. Okay? Because we already know that Yahushua conquered death, the law of sin and death. So let's start at verse 50, 1 Corinthians 15 and 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. So right away, you're not bringing this flesh in there. This stuff is corruptible. Nor does corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. At the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. And for corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible puts on incorruption and this mortal puts on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that it is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Now, we know that Yahushua did that because it says that going back to Romans 8 and 11. But if the spirit of him is raised up Yahushua from the dead, so there it is, death is raised up in victory, dwell in you, he that raised up Yahushua from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his spirit that dwelleth in you. Like I said, that quickening means to put the spirit in you. And mortal must put on immortality. So we know that we're not on immortality right now, but we do see him quickening our spirit. We see him spiritually waking us up and putting his spirit back on us. Verse 12. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to life after the flesh. We are debtors to life after the flesh. Let's get that precept real quick. Revelation chapter 22 and verse 12. And behold, you know what? This is written in red. This is Yahushua speaking. And behold, I come quickly. My reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. He's coming with that reward right now to repay everybody. And it says that we owe a debt, but not to the flesh, but to that life that we're hoping to live after this flesh has been taken away. That's why I told you mortal must put on immortality. And we're not going to the kingdom in this flesh. We are going to put on immortality for that 1/3 that's so lucky to make it. Most High willing, I'm part of that. Most High willing, I'm in that number. So it goes right back into you're going to be sent back in the 3rd or 4th generation to pay a recompense and a curse according to your forefathers. It's the same thing. But now this last generation, you guys have heard this a million times, we're in that last generation, we're going to have to pay for life after flesh. So what does that mean? He that endureth until the end, that same shall be saved. But you got to remember, life after flesh. We've been telling you that this is the last generation. We're going back to the kingdom. We're telling you that this life is only going to be like a blink of an eye. Even the people that don't listen to the Bible will tell you this is the last generation. The world's about to end. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh, but to life after the flesh. Shit's hitting the fan, boys and girls. You're about to repay. You're about to repay the Most High for what you owe him. And you other nations, you're doomed. He's going to cook you guys. But our brothers and sisters that have to get cooked with you because they're so fucking stupid, foolish means stupid, well, they're still going to be born back into the kingdom. You guys are going to be born into slavery for all eternity. Let's go to verse 12. Therefore, brethren, we are not debtors not to the flesh, but life after the flesh. We now understand that. Verse 13. For if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. There it is. But if ye through the Spirit mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. Going back to Revelation 18 and 4, let's read it one more time. Revelation chapter 18 and verse 4 again. And it says, and I heard a voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin, and that ye receive not of her plagues. So let me read it again. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sin. If you live after the flesh, you shall die. Do you get that? So it's telling you in Revelation, it's telling all through the book. Go back to the truth. Go back to the Levitical law. Go back to your statutes. Go back to your high holy days. Go back to your ordinances. Because that's what's going to give you life. Everything else is going to put you in a death position. Come out of the lifestyle and the way that this world has trained you to live. Come out of her, my people. Okay? Remember, to mortify the spirit, to mortify the deeds of the body means, back to the pork example. If I'm eating pork all my life, I'm going to get worms, get fat, and die. But if I mortify the deeds of the body, well, I heard that eating pork is against God's law. I'm going to stop. I like pork, but carnally, my body likes it, but my spirit's telling me that this is no good for me. So I have to stop listening to my flesh and start listening to my spirit. So mortify the deeds of your body, of your flesh. Stop listening to your body tell you at once things that you don't, that are anti-Christ, they're against Christ's teachings. And that's how you shall live. 14, for as many are led by the Spirit of Yahweh, they are the sons of Yahweh. That's simple. God knows my spirit. No, not you, bro. You go stand on the other side of the fucking street over there, get your sign and your bullhorn and scream out Jesus. That's not the guy we're talking about. The Spirit of Yahweh, when you're led by the Spirit of Yahweh, you go home, you open up the Bible, you study, you take notes, you converse with your brothers, you cry aloud, you spare not, you raise up your voice like a trumpet, but you bring a Bible with you and you correctly break down the doctrine. You correctly edify the people. You just don't go out there, well, my spirit told me this, and I don't give a fuck what your spirit said. I know what the Bible says, and if you're not teaching the people basic wisdom and knowledge, you're not teaching. For you have, and you know what? So the people that are led by the Spirit are the sons of Yahweh. So what spirit you're led by, is it shows who you are. It goes right back into you will know them by their fruits. I'm going to know you by the works you put in. So, for as many are led by the Spirit of Yahweh, they are the sons of Yahweh. 15, for you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. And you know what? I'm going to show you guys right now. I got to show you this. Because we do have this. We don't have them. We've been put in bondage again to learn fear. What's fear? Fear is keeping his laws. How do you fear the Most High? By following his instructions. How do you love the Most High? By following his instructions. Sincerely, with joyfulness and gladness of heart. Anybody can go through the motions. Look at these fucking Amalekites and Israeli people. They can go through the motions all they want and pretend like they're us, but they are not. So that's why they receive. We didn't receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but we received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The crazy thing is that I want to share this with you guys right now. Let's go over to the book of Baruch, chapter 3. And starting at verse 5. And it says, Baruch, chapter 3 and verse 5, and it reads, remember not the iniquities of our forefathers, but think upon thy power and thy name now at this time. What's the big controversy right now? The name. Your spirit and your flesh are bearing witness. Woo! But anyway, so at this last day, in these last days, we're going to be calling out his name. And I'm showing you that this is the, we're still in that spirit of bondage, not because to punish us more, but to wake us up so we would cry out for him. So watch this. Let's keep reading. So it said but think upon the power and thy name now at this time. Think upon thy power and he's saying, think how strong I am and my name now. And you know what the other camps are telling you? Oh, don't say that name. Christians saying, don't say that name. Everybody's telling you, don't say that name. 501c3 contract says, don't say that name. But I see you have it on your banner. If you take it off, we'll give you $1 million. No, that name's fake, but I'll give you $1 million never to say it. So we know the power and thy name now at this time. We think upon his power and we're thinking upon his name. And they're telling you, don't think about that. Don't you dare think about that. That's what I'm telling you. We're in the last days. Let's keep going. Verse 6. For thou art the power, thou art Yahweh our power, and thee, O Yahweh, will we praise. And for this cause thou hast put thy fear in our hearts. So there's the spirit of bondage again. He's put that fear and the spirit of bondage are the same things, because the spirit of bondage was to what? To wake us back up to the truth, so we could cry out his name in these last days. So for that cause thou hast put thy fear in our hearts. And that's the truth. That's those laws. Those laws is that fear, just like I was telling you earlier. So anyway, to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity. Where are we at right now, bro? And what are we doing in this captivity? We're calling upon his name and we're praising him in this captivity. For we have called to mind all the iniquities of our forefathers that have sinned before us. So we're starting to remember our sinful ways of the past. And the forefathers that we remember are us. And then we see the other forefathers going off, and we know not to do that. But anyway, we've got to go back to Romans now and get 16. For the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. Okay? So, and how are we bearing that spirit? Because we're the ones that are calling upon his name, and we're the ones that are praising him in our captivity. And we're the ones that are remembering the sins and the iniquities of our forefathers. Now let's prove that let's prove that this is really the captivity that I'm talking about, that is right now. One more verse, verse 8. For behold, we are yet this day in our captivity. And what do we do in captivity? Well, where thou hast scattered us, there's the diaspora, for a reproach and a curse. There's the Deuteronomy 28:15 through 68. And to be subject to payments. That's Deuteronomy 28 and I think 52 or 57. Let's get it. To be subject to payments. Let's get that, and then we'll come back. Deuteronomy chapter 28, KJV authorized. Boom. And let's go down to verse 40. Yep, there it is, 47. Let's start at 47. I wanted to make sure. Because thou servest not Yahweh with joyfulness and gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. What did I tell you? 48. Thou shalt serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. So what does he do? We have to work for those things, right? Wait, there's more. He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. So physically we were slaves until mentally we were destroyed. Now, it's easy to keep us in that bondage due to Stockholm Syndrome, so we're still slaves with a spiritual yoke on our necks at this time, going back to Romans. So the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we're the children of God. And I wanted to prove, like I said, let's go back to Baruch, I'm sorry. So I wanted to prove that we were subject to payments, and we're doing that right now. Where do we go to pay stuff? We go to pay to our oppressor, to our enemy, the person that rules over us. None of us own anything. I own a house. Well, I could say that, but if I don't pay my taxes, they'll take my house. I'm not allowed to dig a certain depth under the ground. I'm not allowed to have any of the minerals. I don't have any rights to the land, but it's my land. That doesn't make sense. I'm not even allowed to dig a fucking hole without permission from the government. That's crazy. So, back to Baruch 8. So, behold, yet this day in our captivity, thou hast scattered us for reproach and a curse to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our forefathers, which departed from Yahweh, our power. So, what did we do? We departed from the truth. And then, so now we're coming back to the truth. That's why he says we have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the spirit of bondage whereby to cry, Abba, Fathers. Do you get it now? We're crying out on the real name. We're crying out in our captivity. We're praising him in the spirit of bondage. Verse 16, the Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we're the children of Yahweh. Because only those children that are going to be crying out and calling upon his name and praising him under these conditions are the true 1/3. Everybody else is going to have to justify a way to make a financial increase so they can protect themselves. So anyway, two more, maybe, I'm going to read a couple more verses. We're going to shut it down. So verse 17, and if the children then heirs of Yahweh and joint heirs with Yahushai, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. So right now, what are we doing? We're suffering with him because we didn't keep the laws. So I'm going to show you this. Oh, I want to show you this. I'm going to read 18. Let's go back over to the book of Ecclesiasticus. Yes, this is a go-to because he told us that that if we suffer with them, we'll be joint heirs with them. So let's go to it. And it says, my son, if thou come to serve The Lord prepare thy soul for temptation. We know that that's going to be the world trying to pull us back out. That goes into Revelation 18:4. The system's always going to try and take you down. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. Don't try to take things into your own hands. Cleave unto him and depart not away. Always stay embedded in the law, or as best as you can in this truth. Just keep your nose in the grind in the book. Just keep your nose in the book. That thou mayest be increased at thy last end. So if we're going to be, if we're going to suffer with him, we're going to be glorified with him. And he said that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. So to move forward, whatsoever, this is number 4, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. And right now we're all in a low estate, but the patience, the cheerfulness is faith. Patience means that we're not going to hasten in this time of trouble. We're not going to try to take things into our own hands. To be cheerful doesn't mean to be happy and excited. It means that I have faith that the Most High is going to end this soon. I believe 100% in my heart that he's going to do the things that he said. I can see the prophecies coming true. That takes us into verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So when gold is refined, the refiner's gonna see his reflection in the gold when it is completely purified. So Yahweh is going to see you sincerely, completely reflecting his works when he looks down upon you. So if the children then heirs of Yahweh and joint heirs with Yahweh Shai, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may also glorify together. So I just showed you, if you come to serve the Lord, you're going to be tempted. They're going to put you at a low estate. They're going to do all these things to you to pull you out of the spirit. So, verse 18, for I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. So right there, we're going to stop right there too. So we're going through this suffering with them. We've come to serve the Lord. We've prepared our souls for his temptation. We've been put to a low estate. We've been ridiculed. We've been told, and Christians stop teaching the Bible. They teach that how to stop black Hebrew Israelites. And then, so just to call us black is a trigger word in itself. So you can see where it's all going. Because these are part of the sufferings of this present time. And when it's over, it says that this is beautiful. The sufferings of this present time that we're in are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. You guys don't get it, do you? When the Most High comes and takes us out of this place, he's going to put us in palaces and a great kingdom. We never talk about how great the kingdom is because we're just trying to get you guys to come back to the truth first so you can find out that there's this great kingdom. And with that being said, if you've got eyes to see, if you've got ears to hear the truth when it's coming out, let me say it one more time. Revelation 22:12. Behold, I come quickly. My reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. So if you've got eyes to see and ears to hear, I can only pray sincerely that you got something out of this message. And remember, the works you're doing now are the works you're going to be repaid for in the kingdom. So if you think that you can justify being a hireling or just doing anti-Christ works that are against the teachings of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, you're doomed. If you think you can get away with that, you're doomed. The sufferings of this time can't be compared to the glory that's going to be revealed to us later. Shalom.